India and the European Union share close relationship and shared values. With me is a top official of the European Union. She is the Deputy Secretary General for Economic and Global Affairs for European External Action Service, which is basically the Foreign Ministry of European Union. Ma'am, welcome to WION and welcome to India as well. You held talks in New Delhi with your counterpart. What were these talks all about and what were the key outcomes?
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's not my first visit, but I'm happy to be back again. Indeed, I held a discussion on our strategic partnership, and basically we took stock of where have we reached after the last year in our different dialogues. So it covered a width of issues. We discussed climate, we discussed energy, we discussed other global issues, we discussed where we are on the free trade agreement. So basically covering the entirety of our spectrum of relationship, which is very broad and very aligned on a number of issues. I think a lot of commonalities, a lot of common aims between India and the European Union.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the trajectory of this relationship going forward? There are a lot of commonalities between India and EU, especially in their working.
Yes, I think for me we're actually on a very good place for the moment. We have a strong commitment from our leadership, both from the European Union and from India. And there's a high wish to do more, to get closer, to work better. It doesn't mean that we always think exactly the same, but I think the big trajectories are very similar between the EU and India right now. So I think we're in a good place for cooperating more.
Good place, and there will be a lot of things which are going to happen in India-EU relationship. One is the TTC, that's Trade and Tech Council, that's going to meet with 3 Indian ministers traveling to Brussels. If you can elaborate about this council, how this council brings India and EU together and how the mechanism basically works.
Yes, to start with, the Trade and Technology Council is the second one only that we're having. We have one with the United States and we have now one with India. And I think that's a testament to the importance we attach to our relationship. And indeed, there are a number of issues that we will discuss where we have a lot to learn from each other. And it's, as it sounds, it concerns trade and it concerns technology. And I would just mention on technology, we're talking about strategic technologies very much in the digital sphere, where of course India is very advanced, we are very advanced, to see how we can work on the new technologies and lift both India and the European Union on those. Then of course we look also at the research aspect of it when it comes to technologies, particularly there in green tech, in climate enhancing measures, which is also key for our development and for the world as we go forward. And the third aspect, of course, is the trade aspects. And there we are looking at sustainable value chains, which has been very much under strain from COVID, and some of them are rebuilding in the new geopolitical landscape we have. We also will be looking at standards and other issues. So I think a lot of things we can discuss. Some of it are new technologies, where it's important that we try to get commonalities and shape the agenda as we go forward, like artificial intelligence, for example. So our aim is really to see where can we find similarities, where can we find ways to cooperate on these very challenging new technologies that are coming out.
Ma'am, does it cover artificial intelligence as well in its ambit?
Indeed, in the TTCs, one of the areas we would like to discuss is artificial intelligence. It's going to shape our world as we go forward. We know that already. There are many new initiatives coming out on stream that are used by our populations already. But there's also some concerns that are coming up, and I think it's important to sit down and have a dialogue on that as these issues are developing. And these are issues we do discuss in the TTC with the United States also, and I'm sure India discuss it also with a variety of partners.
So this will be on the agenda when the TTC meets later?
Yes, indeed. That's one of the topics which we expect to be on the agenda for us to work with. Now, we shouldn't forget this is the first meeting we're having. So it's a lot about setting the agenda for the work that will continue in the year to come and onwards.
But you just pointed out that this is the second TTC you have with any other country after the US. Why India you chose for this council?
No, I think it's a testament, as I said, that of the importance of India. You're an extremely fast-growing country, you're a democracy. There is a big alignment of a number of issues. We don't always land at exactly the same point, particularly on how we implement things, but it's a strong feeling of human centricity when it comes to development of new rules. We have a high interest in trade, and we also look upon, I think we're early adapters of new technologies, and we see the value of cooperating as these things develop.
Ma'am, FTA, the India-EU FTA talks are on. We know that next round is going to happen very soon, but it's painstakingly slow, I would say, in terms of how it started almost a decade ago. Of course, there's renewed momentum now. How do you see it happening? I mean, do you think that the FTA can be concluded fast? Because it's actually not easy to bring together like so many countries together and formalize this FTA. So how optimistic you are when it comes to this FTA?
I'm still an optimist. I think, as you say, we've been discussing a long time. We have a new impetus now. It is clear that we have the strongest commitment from the highest level on both sides to end at the good result. Now, of course, when it comes to trade, I think even more than in many other on many other issues, the devil is really in the details. We want a comprehensive agreement that we can use to trade and invest with for decades to come. And that really requires some challenging. We need to go out of the comfort zone on both sides. But there's always a question, how much can you go out on your comfort zone? I'm positive that the negotiators will do their utmost. We will have a number of stock-taking initiatives coming up, occasions, where the ministers on both sides will meet and they can have a look and see where is it we may be able to land. Because that, I think, is very important in any trade negotiation, that you can see the landing point somewhere, because only then will you be able to see how much you are able to be flexible on each side. But I think the willingness is clearly there. Let's hope that we see it in the same way on what we actually want to achieve and what we can achieve.
Indo-Pacific as a region is something that has been not only in news but as part of policy making. We have seen several countries in European Union coming out with their vision for the Indo-Pacific. What's your view about the vision, and also how do you see India as a partner when it comes to this entire region?
As you know, we have an Indo-Pacific strategy also, which came out a couple of years ago, and it's a very broad strategy. So we have 7 priority areas we want to work with, and it goes from sustainable development, climate obviously, connectivity very important, but also into security aspects. And there are a number of trade, I shouldn't forget either, a number of issues where we have concrete actions, number of issues where we're just now starting to engage, and I would say peace and security is one of those areas where we're looking at issues like cyber, which is extremely important, but also a broader set of issues where we look forward to discussing with a number of our Indo-Pacific partners. And I think one other very important part is we have a very cooperative approach when it comes to the Indo-Pacific. It is very important for us, and we're leaving it quite open for those who would like to cooperate with us within this region and do good things for it. It's a high commitment from the European Union. We will have an Indo-Pacific forum in Stockholm, Sweden on Saturday, which will bring together a number of ministers, including your own, as you said. And that's one of the occasions we have to more focus on exact concrete actions we would like to do, or indeed initiative when it comes to dialogues that which will reinforce what we do. And create greater understanding.
Create greater understanding. India is the chair of the G20. How do you see India perhaps creating greater understanding on various global issues? What are your expectations from Indian presidency of the G20?
I think it was very encouraging to see the priorities of the Indian presidency for the G20, because they actually tally very much with our own priorities. And I think it's the nature of where we are in the world right now. Global priorities are extremely important. It's the state of the world economy, which is key to actually address all the problems and challenges we have. It's the climate issues, it's the energy issues, but it's also sustainable development. And how can we ensure that countries that are perhaps least developed countries, or particularly fragile countries prone to climate disaster, how can we ensure that they are able to tackle the challenges that they are facing? And that brings us again back to the economy, but it also brings us to discussion on what we do, how we conduct the climate adaptations, which we all know are necessary for the whole world. So those are things I think are very important for both sides, and I shouldn't forget either the connectivity aspect of it, which is very much key for connecting the world and part of prosperity as we go forward.
And largely, essentially, we have seen how India is not only now the most populated country, but also major economy, the fifth largest economy. India's role in the world, in a changing geopolitical order, how do you see that?
I think India has an extremely important role to play. You are the biggest democracy in the world, and again, I think that's part of the basis of our similarity of values. We have a lot of similar values between India, and I think it's important that those values and views of India is out there also as a shaper of the dialogue, which needs to take place on a multilateral level. I think you're a strong defender also of the multilateral system, and in the current situation it's clear that we need more of that. So we look very much forward to seeing India taking a strong stance and a strong leadership on many of these questions. Again, as with everything else in the international sphere, it's a question of dialogue and reaching the best result we can do. It may not always be exactly what all of us would like to see. As I normally say about a negotiation, a good negotiation has a result where both sides, or if there are more sides, are a bit unhappy, but it actually, the end result is so much better for all the sides involved. And I think it's the same when it comes to the multilateral discussions and leadership in the world. It is showing leadership, not necessarily deciding everything. And there I think India has a great role to play.
On that note, ma'am, thank you so much for speaking to VO. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.